The fact that Russia and United States in the United Nations Security Council have equal say when it comes to how the world, what the standards are for the global order that we're in, doesn't make any sense, because we're basically missing out on the emergent property of a Darwinian evolution that we get from competition, in the same way like a text like well, I'm not going to go into that, like that would be too philosophical, but it basically keeps things static and stops us from progressing. And I think as the world progresses, we want to see the societies that have produced the best models and with values that show with values that improves the worlds to have a more of a say in the world order that we are moving into, right? So for example, here I think many of us agree that the values that America represents more our values here than the values of CCP or Putin, right? So wanting all of these countries to have equal say when it comes to the standards that we govern the world in is ridiculous. We want more American values and less Russian values and less Chinese values, right? So what does this got to do with what's happening in Munich and Iran? So we saw, for example, the United Nations came out and congratulated the Islamic Republic, the 47th anniversary of the Islamic Revolution, right after the greatest massacre on the Iranian people by the Islamic Republic. So the United Nations position was that the entity that was responsible for killing 50,000 Iranians in the streets for protesting deserves congratulations for their Islamic revolution. That's their position. I mean, we already know that like this is an institution that has been issuing more um that has condemned Israel more often than all the other countries combined, right? So obviously, United States so funding United Nations, while the United Nations condemns as the number one ally of United States in the Middle East is ridiculous. And now I think this should, for us at least here, for everybody that believes in classical liberal values and liberty as a whole, United Nations celebrating and congratulating the Islamic Republic should also is an indication of how backwards the United Nations is, and it's actually quite natural. You shouldn't expect anything more from them, given that they're a reflection of their member countries, and we don't want a world that is. If we want to move forward, we want the people. So a lot of people say like, okay, okay, this sounds to us like might makes right, like what I'm saying, what I'm preaching. Because for example, when I'm talking about Munich, and when I'm talking about what international organizations that are mostly focusing on security and military strength, they are the ones who should be deciding the new world order. That sounds like I'm saying might makes right, and a lot of people might think like, okay, that doesn't sound moral, like we should be fighting for what's right regarding of whether or not somebody powerful would be able to back it or not. Like just because you're powerful, that doesn't mean that you're on the right side of history. I would argue actually that power does, on average, in the long term, not in the short term, power in the long term does suggest that you are on the right side, right? Not in the short term. I understand that Nazis could become powerful for a while. I understand that the Soviet Union could become powerful for a while. I understand that the CCP could become powerful for a while. These are short term progress. But I think that liberty creates power, liberty creates strength, and the same values that brings the highest amount of well-being to your citizens, which is liberal, classical liberal values, are the same values that makes your economy grow, and they are the same values that makes your army, you be able to afford bigger armies. So if you, yes, in the short term might doesn't make right, but in the long term people who are right will have more might. So that's why I think that allowing the people who had the best models to determine the standards in which the globe operates does make sense, because the more successful you are means that the better model you have had, so the better you are in a position to decide how the world should be operating. And especially given that it's only fair for the countries who are contributing the most to the global security with their armies to also be the ones who decide how this security, which standards do we use to bring the security by, right? Because they only, like, they're the ones who are using their armies to do such a thing. And then again, going back to Iran again, so this connects to Iran in three ways, right? So the third way that this, so one was the irrelevance of the United Nations, and and then the more not complete irrelevance but slowly, and then the other one was the fact that security and military, institutions and organizations and international groups are the more of a place where the future of the world is being determined. Writing laws on a piece of paper doesn't do anything unless you have a military to enforce those standards or laws. I mean, the concept of international law doesn't make any sense, anyways. These are international suggestions that nobody's going to take seriously unless you have a military to enforce them. So, if the enforcement, it's the enforcement that is more important to make the standards that you write on a piece of paper relevant, anyway. So, it's the military and the security forces that is the main difference maker here, right? So then that's the second point, and the third point is that when it comes to Iran, what we need to do is Iran is basically has a regime with the values, with the worst of values, and a people with the best of values, right? So Israel managed to Jews managed to create the country Israel with the proper values, and very soon, within a very short amount of time, because they had the proper values, they became a major contributing factor to protecting to provide militarily, not just like by talking about, like, oh, these are good values, we should support these values, not no just but by because they had the proper values, they immediately became a major contributor to fighting against the evil and the values that actually keeps us back. And again, I know I'm going to get a thumbs down again from Samantha. One of the major shifts in Israel that managed to make Israel into a major contributing factor was this pivot away from socialist values towards capitalism. That's what made Israel very significant and economically rich and technologically advanced, and a major contributor to world peace and the destruction of terrorism in the region. We want the same thing for Iran. So given that now we're in that turning point where we're moving to this new world order, away from the old standards that we had that made sense after World War II, and we're also moving towards a Cold War with the United States on one side and the CCP on the other side. It's important that we get more countries freed up to the proper side, to the side of America and Israel, before this phase starts. And the most important country, I'm biased here because I'm Iranian, but I could argue this, I could give you evidence and as much reasoning as you require to argue that Iran is the most important, the greatest potential for us to add to our side, to the classical liberal value side, before this phase starts, than any other country, because the division between the regime and the people is more than any other country. The regime is the biggest enemy of these values, and the people of Iran are the biggest supporters of these values. So freeing up Iran will basically get one country to be against us to extremely on our side. And because of how much oil and gas it has, because of the location of Iran, right in the Middle East, connecting three continents, because not only of its oil and gas, but the fact that the 20% of the world's oil and gas goes through the Hormuz Strait, because of all the international trade routes that could go through Iran, because of the people of Iran, the entrepreneurial, hardworking people of Iran, and the level of education that they have, and the proper values, the democratic and secular values that they have. We have 90 million additional Iranians that will be freed up for our cause, for our side globally. So that's why I'm encouraging you guys, Todd, whenever we're talking about Iran, to look at it from an international perspective. This is not just about freeing the Iranian people from an oppressive regime. This is about a global battle for the classical liberal values that we believe in here, and basically being able to recruit 90 million more people to our side in this global fight, in this upcoming Cold War that we're going to be entering. So that's how I want you guys to basically be looking at all of this. This is a global battle, and we're going to be 90 million larger if we basically free up the Iranian people. So that was my TED talk. That was the end of my rant. Sorry that it took long. I just needed to get that off my chest. Um, all right. So who's on the list? Danny?
Onto the list. First, we have Blake. Although I think Jeffrey and Sammy want to respond to this. If it's really quick, you can do so.
Okay, Jeffrey.
Mine's going to be a little more than quick, so let the other ones go. I'll do it after.
No, no, I do. I because this is. I'm gonna cut this part and make it into a segment. If you do it later, then it's not going to be back to back. So I do wanna,
Sure,
yeah, let you. Yeah,
I can
okay.
do it. So all valid observations. You're not wrong in the sense of the issues facing the utility of the United Nations. It was indeed created after the Second World War to try and address the horrors of the Second World War, as well as in response to the advent of atomic weapons. We hadn't gotten thermonuclear weapons yet. So they're trying to stabilize, give the world a platform where you could deliberate and not have interfactional security competition escalate into interfactional or interactor warfare. That said, so you still have the institutional kind of version of divergent or international institutional version of divergent operational, environmental, political, and policy cycles. That means, like, you have these people who have ideas on how the world should work, and they very much view things in a traditional framework, yet technology and everything else kept evolving, and so the institution did not. Plus, warped institutional evolution defined as hostile and dishonest state actors co-opting and misusing the UN as a platform for political warfare and lawfare. See the acts of Putin's criminalized counterintelligence state, the Chinese Communist Party, Mullah regime that Armin indeed directly cited. So it's the utility of the United Nations as an international body to try and act or to act as a moderating element is now has increasingly been lowered. So is and why is that? So you kind of touched on this as well. You're not wrong. So using a consequentialist framework and whose indexes are, say, defined by Maslow's hierarchy of needs, so that way you can quantify, what is right or might. It's true that might doesn't make right, power doesn't de facto translate into legitimacy, and right, read legitimacy, doesn't translate into might, meaning, like, just because you have a legitimate cause doesn't mean that you have power. Now, within traditional conventional strategic indexes, so combined national indicator composite, relative comprehensive natural power, that's US and CHICOM respectively, perceptions of legitimacy could over time, via selecting for increasing resistance and or counterbalancing against an illegitimate power, undermine the base of an illegitimate power. Here's where the rub is. Tragically, the operational impact of revolutionary technologies, so artificial intelligence, directed energy, advanced biotechnology, robotics, automation, etc., and the almost insurmountable power achieving dominance in any of those fields, particularly in AI, presents to anybody who gets it, traditional cycles of counterbalancing no longer apply. This is also why liberating Iran from the occupation of the Mullah regime, that is in part the main proxy of the autocratic bloc, is so crucial, right? You now have everybody knows what the MacGuffin is, everybody knows the race that has to be won. And it's not just enough to implement or to maximize the impetus of your side, the good guys. It also is, because of the diffusion of that technology, also very crucial to get rid of the bad guys. Yeah, when you think about nuclear weapons, ballistic missile technology, it doesn't matter what agreements those mullahs sign. Everybody knows they're full of shit. Everybody knows they're a dishonest and hostile state actor, right? They're just going to inevitably, whatever deal they sign is just to buy time for them to cross those kinds of asymmetric deterrence thresholds. I'm going to close with this one point, and it's not meant to disagree. It's true. So we're not in a coming Cold War. We're in the beginning stages of a high intensity world war, which the gray zone elements look a lot like. the lesser kinetic aspects that defined security competition in a Cold War as it was traditionally defined via the Soviet era of the Cold War. Proxies, lawfare, all that. That is not where that's we're not moving to that and it's going to stop. All the indicators show that there is a what is it, an unsurmountable cascading trend towards high intensity world war, which again means it underwrites why the mullahs have to go. They have to get taken off the board. So when your brave fellow Persians chant, "This is the final battle," they're not wrong. In the context of the role that the mullah regime plays in the broader threat to global stability and security, they're very much right about that.
All right, Danny.
And I think Sammy also wanted to quickly add something about this. Am I correct? Just based
All
on
right.
where you raised your hand.
Aman, hi. I just
Is it about is it about this topic, or do you want to
it's
add?
about this topic.
Okay,
It's
okay.
it. I just want to add some points on what you said. And the thing about Iranian people, like I come from a nation called India, and to be precise, my country's development wouldn't have been possible without the so-called Irani refugees. You know, the Tatars, the merchants, and the mysteries. And the Tatars were so great. I mean, if anybody could do the effort to go on the Google and search Ratan Tata, he was an Iranian man. He was a national hero in my nation, right? His whole family, his whole lineage was a national hero to my people. And they have done a lot of charity and they have done a lot of good. They have added a lot to the labor laws in my nation. So I believe there's no doubt that the morals and the moral compass of the Iranian people is in the right place. Everybody knows that, you know, whether it's in Britain or it's in India or it's in, you know, the major economies of the world. And then the other point that I want to add is that everybody knows that UN is a sham of an organization, right? Like like they just want to maintain the most basic amount of diplomacy. They will put anything on the line for maintaining that basic amount of diplomacy, right? They would put human rights on the line. They would put a lot of things on the line. And I believe the major portion of the world, and I believe all of the big economies, whether it's US, whether it's Russia, whether it's the European Union, I'm sorry to say European Union, whether it's India, whether it's China, we don't value the worth of UN a lot, right? And we also know that UN is a sham because what we saw in COVID, China controlling the WHO, you know, like its pet dog. And it was hurtful, but it was awakening and enlightening in the same sense. But yeah, I mean, like, there's nothing I can disagree, or there's no room for questions left upon what you said. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Right. Next
Um,
we have Blake.
guys, try to do because I tried to. Okay, Blake, go ahead. Is this on this topic or a new topic?
Topic.
Can I just object one thing?
Sammy, like we're so behind, but
Yeah,
like
I know we are so behind. Just can you go after this discussion and look up for Ratan Tata and the Tata family? They are Iranian
all right,
people.
like let's go to Blake. Let's go to Blake. Yeah, I will look later. Thank you. So like make a post about it on the on the group chat. Okay, so Blake. And guys, because Goldie wants me to go leave earlier, let's try to keep it shorter. Go on, Blake.
Okay, so this is actually a pretty quick question, I think. So, what is your opinion on the recent statements that Vance made about America's only interest being in the nuclear weapon program versus the actual government in Iran? Do you think this changes anything or
Okay, so Trump mentioned that they also care about the. So Vance said that when I listened to it, he said that obviously he cares about it. Would what they would want is for the Iranian people to be free, but they are more zoomed in on nuclear. right? That's what I've heard. Is that what you heard? Like he didn't say that he didn't say like he doesn't care about what's happening to Iranian people, but he said that our priority is to make sure that the
Okay, I
Islamic
kind of heard
Republic
this
doesn't.
secondhand, so I didn't actually hear exactly what he said word for word.
Right. So
Okay.
he said when I listened to what he said, of course it would be better if the Iranian people were free and all of that. But then he said, but from a U.S. perspective, the focus is to try to make sure that the Islamic Republic doesn't become nuclear, right? And I mean that should be their focus. I mean everybody, like so we have the Israeli priority, the Iranian priority, and the American priority. Okay, everybody has their priorities, but there's a lot, like if you look at the Venn diagram of the Israelis, the Iranians, and the Americans, there's a lot of overlap, but obviously it's not a complete overlap, right? Like because we're different countries and we have different national interests. The fact that we even have overlaps makes us strategic allies. But it would be me as an Iranian, it would be ridiculous of me to expect for America to make my national interest as an Iranian their top priority. I should be grateful that the fact that there's any overlap at all, right? Asking Americans to come and just prioritize what Iranian citizens want doesn't make any sense. The whole point of having a state is to serve the national interests of their nation, their citizens, right? So, as an Iranian or as an Israeli, when you're talking to the Americans, like you shouldn't go and tell them like, "Hey, do this for us." Your job is to try to convince Americans or Israelis or any two other countries that are talking with each other or trying to collaborate with each other, work with each other, is to highlight the alignments that we have, right? So the alignment that we have with the United States when it comes to our goals is that we hate the Islamic Republic and they hate the Islamic Republic, right? So if they're that's a good element to have, even if it's not a 100% overlap. So as an American citizen, you you might care about what's happening to the Iranian people, but obviously just like every family cares about their, like as a father you would care about your daughter more like than someone else's daughter. That doesn't mean you don't care about them, just means you prioritize your daughter, right? So Americans have to be told why should we care beyond the fact that this is a tragedy for the Iranian people. Like what is it, what do we get out of this, right? Because remember, your state is not a charity, right? If you care about other people, uh you could, like, you have charities for that, right? So we like the Americans, if they want to get their military involved, I mean, they're paying for it. We Iranians, for example, in America, we have to like show how getting rid of the Islamic Republic is beneficial to United States, and the benefit outweighs the cost. This is what you need to do. This is what educating people. And again, when I say educated, I'm not suggesting that like obviously as from an Iranian position, an Iranian or an Israeli would know more about the Middle East than an American because this is our neighborhood, like just in the same way that an American would know more about their neighborhood than we would know, right? Or about American politics, right? So our job is to show them that we are there fighting the Islamic Republic, and if they assist us, we will we Iranian people ourselves will do so much to take out America's number one enemy. This is the relationship United States and Israel have with each other. Israel is so beneficial for United States because with just a little bit of support from United States, Israel is doing so much more that benefits United States than United States would have gotten if they had to go into the Middle East and kill their enemies themselves. It would have been more costly. This is why some people who think that supporting Israel is not America first don't understand. Supporting Israel is America first because it would have been so much more expensive and so much more costly to the Americans to try to go into the Middle East and get American soldiers to kill their enemies there. Israel is doing a beautiful job doing this, taking out their own enemies is at the same time taking America's enemies with a fraction of the cost if the Americans had to do that, right? So if United States priority is that we can't accept any nuclear weapons for the Islamic Republic, then that's fine. That could be their priority. We have to show, we and many other Americans, like Lindsey Graham or Ted Cruz or Marco Rubio, need to explain to Americans that there is no way for the Islamic Republic to avoid the Islamic Republic going nuclear other than regime change. Like there is no way. Like there is no military intervention, no negotiation, no progress, no reform. There's nothing, absolutely nothing that will stop the Islamic Republic from going nuclear. One way or another, these people are going to go nuclear. So even if America wants to focus only on nuclear, I mean, they're not focusing on nuclear only. They're prioritizing nuclear. So that's what I think JD Vance wanted to say. JD Vance is not saying we don't care about the Iranian people. He's not saying we don't care about the ballistic missiles. He's not saying we don't care about the proxy groups. Obviously, they care about all of that, but they care about nuclear more than everything else. That's the main focus. But even in a hypothetical situation where they cared about nothing else, they didn't care about the Iranian people one bit. They didn't care about the ballistic missiles one bit. They didn't care about the proxy terrorist groups that the Islamic Republic supports one bit. And the only thing they wanted was to make sure that they don't go nuclear. That even by just focusing on that, they would be aligned with the Iranian people, because the Iranian people want regime change, and the Americans should also want regime change if they want the Islamic Republic not to go nuclear. Does that make sense, Blake?
Yeah, thank you.
Next, I have Eric Sharifi.
Hey guys, I've been dropping in and out. I had a bit of trouble with the connection, but I'm not sure if this has been taken up. But the Crown Prince had a meeting today with President Zelensky
Yes.
in Ukraine, and I think this is a major milestone for the European involvement, because Zelensky has stated that the Islamic Republic is a threat to the national security of Ukraine, since they provide the Shahed drones to Russia. And now this opens the door for Europe in the context of saying that pressuring and maybe even supporting Pahlavi officially is helping the security of Europe. So I think this is a huge, huge milestone that's been today.
Right. So yeah, they met in Munich. So, and this was really great, and I could share. By the way, Eric, can you mute your mic because I'm hearing some background? Sorry about that. Yeah, so that's actually a very good point. Let me actually share the meeting and maybe also read President Zelensky's statement. Actually, let's play the video first, okay? Let's just do the video here. What we have heard is approximately 40. All right, so now let's read the statement by President Zelensky saying, I met with exiled Crown Prince of Iran, Prince Reza Pahlavi, in Munich. Ukraine supports the Iranian people as they are fighting for their future. We also express our sympathy to all the victims of the Iranian regime. During our conversation, we focused on the situation in Iran and the areas. By the way, guys, see how Zelensky is referring to the prince as the Crown Prince of Iran, which is, very respectable way of referring to him, which is really good. So that was good. So saying, during our conversation, we focused on the situation in Iran and the areas where the Iranian people need support. We discussed the importance of strengthening sanctions against the Iranian regime and any other dictatorial regimes. We condemned the cooperation between Russia and Iran, in particular the supply of Shaheds, these are Shahed drones, by the Iranian regime to Russia, and the granting of licenses for their production. Such a partnership poses a real threat not only to Ukraine but to the entire region. I thank Crown Prince of Iran for supporting Ukraine's territorial integrity. It is vital to make every effort to protect human lives. Ukraine is ready to help on its part. So a lot of people might not understand that this is actually more significant than people realize, because This is an official recognition of a president of a country, of Princess Pahlavi's recognition by a president of a country as the Crown Prince of Iran, right? And the representative of the Iranian people. This is a huge win. This is a major win in the legitimacy of Princess Pahlavi, right? So this is a nightmare for the Islamic Republic because this increases his international standing, and it's a major, major challenge to the legitimacy of the Islamic Republic because he's meeting with the president. He is not meeting with like a Marco Rubio or Lindsey Graham, which is not the president of the United States. It's not any of those. Okay, he's meeting with a president of a country. So this is a major, major win for us. And also, guys, another reminder why Iranian people, other than the flag of United States and Israel, sometimes you see in the rallies they bring the flag of Ukraine, right? I don't know if you guys noticed that in the protests outside of Iran, when there's Iranian people rally, you often see Ukrainian flags. So the number one flag that you see is obviously the Lion and Sun flag. The two other main flags that you usually see they bring is the US flag and the Israeli flag. But the fourth most common flag that they bring with them is the Ukrainian flag. So that sometimes people find that interesting. Many Iranians see eye to eye with the Ukrainian people because Iranian people consider Putin to be an enemy as well, especially because the Russia's support for the Islamic Republic, and a lot of Iranian people historically are very angry with most Russian leaders because historically they have supported all our enemies, all the enemies of the Iranians. So this is why many Iranian people have some aligned goals with the Ukrainians, and they support Ukrainians fight against Putin, and this is why you see them carrying the flag. Jeffrey, you wanted to add something to this? Okay, quickly. I know it's hard, but if you could do it, so yeah.
So it's not just that President Zelensky recognized His Highness Prince Reza Pahlavi as Prince Reza Pahlavi. He said the exiled prince. Why is that significant? Because recognizing there's a reason what you and Goldie did yesterday on the petition is so important, right? Having the transition government being led by His Highness Prince Reza Pahlavi, hopefully with some other people on the panel, so you maintain solidarity, right? Means that now, as the officially recognized government of Iran in exile, that streamlines a lot of different legal and regulatory hurdles for providing lethal support to anti-mullah elements in Iran.
Next, I have Ali.
Oh, I think Eric. Before we go to the next person, Eric, did I answer your question?
Yeah, I didn't really have a question though. I just wanted to bring it up, but may I just add to that really quick? I think we shouldn't underestimate President Zelensky because his name, because he's been built up during the last couple of years really hard by the European leaders, and they've invested really hard into him as like a character. So his word carries weight now.
All right, sounds good. I'm hearing a keyboard sound in the background, but okay. But that's a good point. Thank you, Eric. All right, Danny, I think it's your mic that is open. We're hearing a lot of keyboard.
Oh, sorry.
noise.
Yes.
That's okay. Okay, so who's next? Did you say?
Ali.
Yes, thank you, Armin. Thank you. I just have a quick question. Mine actually has to do with more of what Prince Pahlavi said at the conference in Munich. He was asked a question that came from someone in the crowd, and I apologize if I don't know her name, but it was more in regards to establishing institutions regarding like how people are going to rage after the government has fallen, and how they're still going to be upset and they want their justice, so to speak. And Prince Pahlavi mentioned, and I thought it was, in my opinion, one of the best MVP answers, even though the whole interview was amazing, to be honest, on how he responded. I kind of liked how he said that we're going to look at other models, such as South Africa, such as when the Soviet Union fell and what Russia did afterwards. Can you give me your analysis? Do you think even in a model that wasn't proven, is it important to look at those models still? Because some things can be taken away that can help Iran's new government, obviously, establish its institutions to be on a better foundation than what those models portray.
The person who asked the question, her name is Nazanin Bunyadi. She's an actress, and she's been active in the opposition. She hasn't been posting a lot about Princess Pahlavi, but she seems to be have been friendly in the conference towards him, so that was good to see. But I need to talk to my Persian audience on the Persian side to see what we think about her. But regarding your question, yeah. So, for example, yeah, I mean, this is one thing really good with regards to Princess Pahlavi's team, is that the level of sophistication and the level of expertise and that they have in their team, and the open-mindedness, and the level of research that they're doing, like, you would be so impressed. Like, I mean, I'm sure you have, but everybody here would be very impressed if they go and study the Iran Prosperity Project. Regards, like, it's not just uh, it's on a different level, like when it comes to anything that I've seen, when it comes to people, not just within the revolution in Iran and all the other attempts to create a team of experts to come up with a plan to what to do for the revolution, for the transition, and for after the transition. It's not just the best we have ever had in our history of our fight against Islamic Republic. I'm gonna make this claim, and it sounds like it might sound exaggerated, but I could challenge you to challenge me on this, right? But you could push back if you want. I'll tell you why I think that, but I honestly think that this is the most organized, well planned, sophisticated, academic, researched, organized revolution plan in the history of revolutions in general, right? If you actually study it, right? The way, if you go and see what these people are doing, and they're very, very, you know non-ideological, empirical, like they're looking at data and analyzing things so objectively, like it's so impressive. The Princess of Pahlavi's team, the Nufti team, the people who wrote the emergency booklet plan for the first 100 days after the Islamic Republic falls, it's just so impressive. So, and yes, like Ali is mentioning, they're looking at every other country, not for every phase, not just for the post transition phase, but for the transition phase and for the revolution phase as well. They're looking at historically all other countries, everything that has happened everywhere in the world, the good, and as Ali pointed out, and also the bad, right? And yeah, you can learn a lot from the bad. For example, from the Soviet Union perspective, one thing we want to do, for example, in Iran, once the Islamic Republic falls, is privatization, right? Because right now the IRGC controls most of the industries in Iran. Any industry that grows, at some point IRGC is going to come and take over, and most of our business is controlled by the government, and the private sector is extremely weak and is not able to compete with the IRGC. It's like it's not just a monopoly; it's like monopoly over most industries the IRGC that has. And you can I mean, I hope most people here recognize that a strong economy requires a very strong private sector, right? So we need to go through privatizations of our industries. However, we also have to pay attention to, for example, the Soviet Union. When they fell, they did privatization, and it failed miserably because they were doing it really fast and very unorganized, right? It made it so that most of the people from the Soviet Union managed to just be able to come and grab everything really quickly. And now they turn it now the same people that were in charge before now are controlling most of the industries in Russia. So privatization is good, but we have to learn from other people's failures. Apparently, like, doing it really quickly and without planning is going to backfire, right? So even we have to do it slowly and with like a lot of planning ahead of time. So that's something that you could learn from the Soviet Union. Yeah, so you shouldn't just be looking at the countries that have the correct model and have done things properly. You should also learn from countries that failed and learn from their failure and figure out why they failed.
Absolutely, and you don't even need to challenge me because I agree with
I'm
you.
not
They
even
have
sure.
been methodical. It's next level what him and his team have done. So I will agree with you. Thank you so much for your time, Armin.
No, thank you, thank you. That was a good question. All right, so Danny, what are we doing next?
Next, we have Jeremy. We gotta really hurry up. So if the topics are running long, I don't think we can take responses
Okay,
in less time
Jeremy.
as we can.
Yeah,
I mean,
the good. Yeah, go. Yeah, go on. Go on,
yep,
Jeremy.
thanks what you and Goldie are doing in respect to the brave Iranian people. Just had a few comments, and I just wanted to get to some thoughts about the day after in Iran. Just with what you're saying about the UN, I don't think the UN should ever be anything more than just people coming together to have chat and de-escalate things. It's always going to be corrupt. Nations will always vote in their best interest, not in what is morally right, and they can always be paid off by richer nations to vote one way or the other. What you're saying about might is right. I think that applies more to science and engineering. If you've got the right idea of science and how the universe works, and you'll be able to build a car that works. I think countries like US and Germany got very powerful because they've got a lot of rivers and cheap transportations that made them good manufacturing bases for building things for war and building their economies to. So that's why they became powerful. And geography also, and that also implies the political systems. What's a good political system for the US may not be a good political system for Russia that doesn't have that manufacturing base and needs to have strong central power. But anyway, also some things you're talking about with, I think what you're saying about that you're considering other, or that the transitional government may be considering other things apart from just tried and tested things like democracy. I think that's a really good idea because, I mean, democracy might be the best system out there, but it's not. I mean, you look at the adversarial system in democracy is good idea to use it, but the way it's done is very not constructive. All the incentives are wrong. So if you've got a blank slate to build a government, I think you'd be doing very well if you can come up with a better system than anyone's got. I mean, I'm not a US hater. I think they've been the best empire the world's had, but I think they've then their track record still, even though they might be better than any other empire for other countries around the that's not part of the empire, they're still not been that great, and they're not going, I don't think, in a good direction. So no insult to Jeffrey, but I think President Trump is an abnormality. If you had Biden, you had Harris, I don't think you'd be changing the regime in Iran. And there's no the way that the way things are going, you could end up with Tucker Carlson or someone like him as the next president on the right wing. So I wouldn't be relying on the US to be a great superpower. And I'm very hopeful that if the regime can fall in Iran, then an alliance between the ancient people of Iran and the other indigenous populations in the Middle East could bring a lot of good to the world. So, like Iran, Israel, the Druze, the Yazidis, I think that could push back against a lot of
All
the
right,
bad way the world's
so
going.
Jeremy, you brought a lot of points that I need to go through. So let me try to go through them. So last point before I go through them, because that's a
Can I
lot
just
of
make
things that I need.
one more quick thing? Is that I just
Yeah.
hope as well that if Iran does set on a good way when it starts off, it doesn't become corrupted like the left wing has, and like the new and MAGA is being corrupted as well by bad players, and that you don't get corrupted with the money that's going to come in and try and change you.
All right, so let me actually go through all of this. Okay, first of all, I didn't say might makes right. I say that if you're right, you will get might. Okay, so the causation, the might doesn't mean that you have right, that you're right, but if you are on the right side, you are more likely to become powerful because you have the right methods and the right values, and your economy is going to grow and your people are going to be happy and you're going to be able to afford bigger armies, right? So the direction of the causality is the other way around, and this is not just regarding engineering and science. I also believe that this applies to society and values and culture as well. When it comes to what makes societies progress faster, there are different theories. So if you read Guns, Germs, and Steel, you would get an understanding, like based on what you just said, that maybe it's geography, it's geographic determinism. If you read a book like Why Nations Fail, you would think they would come to the conclusion that it's the power of institutions, whoever has the best institutions, and that's going to be that's the main determining factor of what society makes societies progress faster. The third theory is that it's the culture. People with the superior culture are the people who are going to be winning, and all of these are to some I think all of these are to some extent true, and sometimes they might exaggerate. I lean on all of these being true, but also the fourth theory that I really agree on and want to focus on a lot more is liberty. And this is what I try to advocate for. I think the most significant determining factor is liberty, because nobody will know what the right way is until it's tested and it survives in a competitive Darwinian model. Like, I don't think like people writing books, philosophizing, and thinking about the best methods are going to ever be able to compete with just allowing everything to be tested out and through basically just like the evolutionary process in nature, but then with living things. When you have more liberty, more things, the emergent property of this competitive, you need basically classical liberal values means that you create some limitations, so you protect the framework, so you have the rule of law, you have border integrity, you fight corruption, but beyond that you let everything go. And in this environment, whatever works will survive. And this is why the more liberal you are, the more free your people are, the more prosperous you will become, the more advanced your country will become, and the faster you will progress. Because as the failure of communism showed us that there are no experts that could determine what is the best way to run economy, and the failure of fascism showed that there are no experts that would be able to be philosopher kings and decide better than better than the wisdom of the crowd what is the best way to politically run a society. So liberty, I think, and having the competition between different methods and different values, and letting the ones that don't work fail, and the ones that do succeed to be determine how we move forward. That's why liberty is key, in my opinion, right? And this is why I'm very hopeful for the future of Iran, because Iranian people want liberty, right? And it's not just democracy, because democracy is part of these values. Democracy is not the whole thing. That's why instead of democracy, and I say liberty, right? When it comes to saying you seem to have faith in the US, but the US has its flaws, I mean, the fact that we even have to point out that US has flaws shows how amazing the United States is, that we need to be reminded that it has flaws. Okay, the fact that you might even forget that it has flaws, to me suggests that they're so like nobody has to remind you that the CCP has flaws, right? Like if you come and say like, "Hey, the CCP has flaws," people will look at you like, "What the fuck are you talking about? Of course the CCP has flaws." If somebody comes and tells you that Putin has his flaws, people think like you're retarded. Like, of course Putin has flaws, but the fact that yeah, of course United States has flaws, but the fact that you have to remind people that it has flaws shows how ahead of other states they are, that reminder is even needed. So yeah, when I support the United States, I'm not claiming that they are perfect, obviously. I'm just claiming that when it comes to the values that we are supporting, they have it, they are founded based upon it. And obviously sometimes maybe they don't abide by it completely, but they're the main supporters of it, right? And their economy shows it, and their military shows it. And not only their economy and the well-being of their people and their laws shows it, it also, I mean, technology, and their technology shows it. But beyond that, their economy influences the rest of the planet, their culture influences the rest of the planet, and their military influences the rest of the planet in a positive way. So even if it's not 100% perfect, through osmosis, the whole planet, I mean, this I mean, many people don't understand the influence, the level of influence that America's United States economy, culture, and military has. Like, if you actually compare it to all the other countries around the world, United States is like a sun that all the other countries are the planets that are just orbiting around it. That's how influential the United States is. Like, when it comes to, like, a lot of people don't understand the U.S. The U.S. culture is so widespread that we don't even notice it because we're swimming in it. Like, the rest of the world is swimming in it and they don't even notice it because it's like fish swimming in water that doesn't notice water. Like, when it comes to music, when it comes to the structure of the government, and I mean, the fact that you even have in every other country, you have three branches of the government. That's a US invention, right? The fact that every place on the planet, when you walk into a mall, is either music from their country or it's an American song. The fact that in every country in the world, when you go to their theater, either it's a movie from their country or an American movie. I mean, recently Koreans have also been able to compete, but like, they're present everywhere. The fact that all of us here from around the world that we're speaking English, okay, that's because of American dominance, right? We're lucky that that's the case. I mean, you might be complaining about America this, America that, but obviously none of us would want the play for China or Russia to take America's place, right? So you deal with what you have. Like, in a hypothetical scenario that we had like another country that was bigger than America, more influential than America, and more better than America, we had to pick between America and that country. Like, oh, okay, let's pick that country. But that country doesn't exist. The choice that you have right now when it comes to dominance around the world is America, Russia, and China. I mean, I don't know if Russia is actually, maybe it's just China and America, right? I know what I'm voting for. I know which team I belong to, right? So I'm on Team America, even if I'm not looking for a perfect America. I'm just looking, honestly, like, the fact that so many of the values that make the world a better place is the same values that America is defending around the world. I think even if it was half of this, even if America was standing for half of the things that they're standing for, I would still be supporting America. I think, like, we should be really appreciative of United States being in this world. I mean, the world. Look at how the world is with American dominance compared to everything that the world experienced before America was the world power. It's just night and day. Like, the level of prosperity, stability around the world is of science and technology. I mean, what technology doesn't come from America? What science hasn't been because of America? Like, international trade around the world is possible because of the security that America's military is providing globally. Like, everything, if America was not the global power right now, everything would be more expensive everywhere. People would be dying more everywhere. More people would be going more hungry everywhere. Like, America is a country that shows up first before any other country when there is a disaster anywhere around the world, and it's the last country that it leaves. We could point to America's flaws. Anybody who wants to point America's flaws better also spend 10 times the time that it points America's flaws into celebrating all of the great thing that America stands for, or else they're being a hypocrite. So America is a great country because people criticize it, and it's a place where you can criticize your politicians. So I'm not against criticism, but if you want to be fair, then for every criticism, you have to spend 10 times the amount of time basically pointing out how great of a country it is, right? And when you talk about Biden and Trump, I think America's greatness is beyond this presidents. And even if we have some shit presidents sometimes, it would be a temporary setback. The superiority of American values and what America stands for is so foundational within the country, within its constitution, and within its institutions, then it's beyond its presidents. So bad presidents will just make it temporarily for America. It makes it a temporary setback, but eventually America will be. And again, America is moving in the right direction. I completely disagree that when you say America is moving in the wrong direction, the gap between America and the rest of the world is widening. It's not shrinking, it's widening. America's economy is growing faster. America's military is becoming more powerful. America's influence when it comes to technology and culture around the world is increasing. So America is moving in the right direction. And yeah, so and I support that, and I'm glad, and I'm appreciative of America. Even if I criticize America sometimes, I also try to remind myself how grateful we are that America is the country that is the world superpower right now.
Yeah, I think you mistook me for an American hater. I'm not. I'm a realist.
No, I didn't. I was
I-
pointing. No.
yeah,
Just let me just clear. I was trying to respond to everything I hear, not just you. So I wasn't
I'm not.
stating
I'm
you
not
were an American.
American. I'm not patriotic like Jeffrey. Look, I'm sure he is, and he deserves to be. But what I'm saying is that, I mean, for example, I just don't think it's a good idea to be relying on the United States. I mean, have a look at the Kurds in Syria. I mean, America will always do what is in its best interest. It's not that powerful that it cannot do and be ruthless and do what is in its best interest. And when I was talking about America going the wrong direction, I had my eyes on what's happening in the American universities that have been taken over by their enemies, and what's happening to the views of the young people. Maybe they'll grow out of it, maybe they won't. But the America's what people like Jeffrey thinks good is not what the young people coming through the universities.
Jeremy, I need to respond to what you're saying, but then I need to move on. Okay, first of all, the Kurdish separatists shouldn't be supported anyway. So good job, America, in stopping and not supporting them anymore. Also, America working in its best interest is why America is great. America should be doing what's in the best interest. That's not a bug. That's a feature. We want America to be working. America benefits the rest of the world because it focuses on its own best interests, and we don't want America to become like if America all of a sudden decides to like, oh, I'm going to basically save the rest of the world and I'm going to actually look at all the world's best interests, that actually will be bad for the rest of the world. Sometimes we think like if you actually try to help people, that's best for people. It's not the case. It's basically the same as we want it's America focusing on America is more beneficial to the rest of the world than an America focusing and trying to save the rest of the planet, right? Because American values are superior, and if America makes America bigger, the rest of the world will benefit from it regardless. It's basically the same as a mother. If a plane is going down, a mother has to put the mask on them. They have to prioritize saving themselves before they save their children, right? So America should take care of America more than they take care of the rest of the world. That's what we expect from every single state out there. Last thing regarding the universities, look at the universities. People believe in the wrong ideas. I mean, America has gone through worse. Look at the McCarthyism. That was a horrible episode that we had in America. America survived that. Look at America. You could be America betrayed its own values when they had Japanese, camps. Like they basically locked up the Japanese without just because that seemed like a dark moment. Again, these are temporary for me because the foundations of America are very solid. These are just temporary setbacks, but America, on average, long term, if you zoom out, it's in the wrong direction. And I think what you're saying in American universities is just one of the other temporary setbacks that we have so many of those in America's history, and America survived every single one of those, and it will continue to survive them. All right, so we need to move on. Who is next, Danny?
Next, I have Eric Davis.
I need to go like in 10 minutes or so. And I mean, I should have gone now, but I should have left 10 minutes ago. But okay, if they're not answering, let's go to move to the next.
Okay, next, Alich Amenei left some questions in chat. Or not questions, but okay, I'll read it. First, he says that Petito's face is visible, and he sent me a link on school. I'll send it to you too. It's a link to a 3-hour live stream, and I couldn't find exactly where it was, but
I removed that. Okay, send that to me.
Check
I
out
will
the
check it.
yeah.
I will check. Okay.
He was concerned about Goldie's mom being found, and he's
okay, guys. Goldie knows what to
says-
do. Let's just go to the questions.
Yeah.
Goldie knows what to do with her security, so let's just move on from this. Let's go to the
and
next.
He also
person.
says that Asvan has lots of connections with Iran. Okay, next person we have. Sam.
Okay, let's I'm seriously running out of time. Like, and I want to respond to the other people here. Yeah, okay.
Just like a couple of minutes each, please. Sammy,
just real quick. 30 seconds.
Amin, I just wanted to ask you about the military aspect of the mullah regime. What do you think would be the case scenario if Khomeini or the mullah regime chief Ayatollah is removed? What do you think would be the result of the mullah regime's military wing?
Okay, so the IRGC needs to be. We're going to quickly respond to this. So, if the Islamic Republic falls, the IRGC needs to be removed, and the people from the IRGC who don't have their blood in their hand, they need to be recruited within the Artesh. So we have two military units in Iran, the Artesh and the IRGC. We need to get rid of the IRGC, and all of our military force needs to go under the Artesh. The leaders of IRGC and the Artesh, both of them will be tried for their crimes against the Iranian people. Within the IRGC, anybody that could be proven was involved in killing the Iranian people, they should also be, have their day in court and then go to jail. But then all the other ones need to be everyone left, and all the new people that we will be recruiting will be under one army ish. So that's what we're gonna do. Okay, so let's next person.
I have Jeffrey. Jeffrey, did you want to say something?
Okay, Jeffrey. Okay, so Jeffrey's saying move on.
Okay.
Real
And
quick,
then
I have one
Samantha
question
just
for you. Wait, one
Okay.
question. So, Armin, as you know, Israel released its target list of who they're going to hit. And you know who's number one on that list? As Tulsi reported, it's someone with a very long beard.
Okay,
Right.
well, fantastic. That's good to know. All right, I'm gonna
Right.
have to look into that. Okay, next.
Last, Samantha just raised her hand, and that's it.
I saw Richard as well. Samantha and then Richard. Samantha.
I must have missed Richard.
Like, I don't know how to say this, but the idea of monopolies scare me. So, like, even if America's better than, other countries, it would have to be, like, it can't just be a little bit, it has to be way better for it to, like, be better for America to have a power monopoly than, like, America with a power monopoly would, like, maybe be the strongest country, but, like, another country be a very close second in terms of power. I don't
Yeah, I mean, okay. Yeah, sorry. I thought you were
I
finished. Sorry,
don't
go on.
understand, like, I don't see why America it's better to have America as, like, a clear power leader as opposed to, like, maybe, like, America be kinda like top power leader, but China be a very close second.
Yeah, I like having China as a competition because you grow with competition. And I like America winning against China, but it's also good to have competition because America without competition wouldn't be growing this much. It's competition that helps you grow, right? However, when it comes to America being like when I want America to win against China, even though I appreciate the competition, I don't want like we are dealing with what we have, not what we want. Like, would I want to have two countries like America being this great and helping each other? Yeah, of course, that would be ideal. That would be better, right? I hope India, for example, grows and keeps being on the United States side, and like tries to help the balance towards United States, for example. Hopefully, like in 50 years, maybe we could have India participating more on America's side. More like, I mean, it does already, but I'm just saying, like, as a like military superpower, maybe one day. I don't know. I can't predict the future in 50 years. But I'm just saying, like, we deal with what we have, not what we want. I would prefer if we had more countries with American values as big of America. I mean, who else would prefer that? America. Do you think Americans like being the only ones who are spending money on global security? Well, who else is there to do this? There is nobody. Like, if there was, that, yeah, that would be ideal, right? So hopefully more countries would abide by the values that made America this big and this powerful, and those countries would be perfect allies to the United States. Like, if a country like America would love it if it had a strong, powerful ally with similar values. I mean, but they would become natural allies, right? America would have wished that Europe was spending more on their military. Like, America would prefer Europe to be a bigger military power so that they could contribute to world security and securing international trade, so American taxpayers don't have to foot the bill mostly by themselves. So yeah, what you're describing is more ideal, but we don't have that. Like, which country on the planet could contribute to global security right now a fraction of the level that America is right now? Do we have
Is
that? We
China
don't have
really
that.
that much worse than America?
Oh my god, yeah.
They are pretty bad.
When it
Like, I know a Chinese American friend, he recently went to China, sorry to interrupt. And he says that there's still a lot of poverty, even with the flashy cities that they have.
No,
Right.
I'm not talking about poverty. I'm talking about standing for shit values, right? Like
Oh, sorry.
you,
Sorry.
yeah. I mean, poverty is a natural result of that, right? But yeah,
Are
I'm
you trying
talking about
to
not. Yeah, go on.
are you trying to finish here?
Yeah.
I
So
thought you
just
would have to go.
Samantha, we will talk about this more, and I will tell you what the CCP stands for. It's horrible. It's like stuff of nightmares, right? So at some point we will talk about that.
And Richard,
So
really quickly, or
Richard and Arya. Richard very quickly, and then Arya very quickly.
Yeah, Armin, I had some commentary on what you said, but it's more of a comment than a question. So in the interest of time, I'm willing to pass if somebody else wants to ask a question.
Oh, okay. Hopefully, I get to hear you tomorrow because I enjoy listening to you.
So there's a guy that follows your stream. He said that last night you were explaining that the hardliners of Islamic Republic are actually to our benefit because they are showing the Islamic regime for what it really is. And his question is, what he wants to know is your opinion, Armin, on once we get rid of the Islamic Republic fully and had our referendum and our votes for a new government, what should we do regarding these pro-Islam hardliners?
Pro-Islam hardliners, like okay. So first of all, they shouldn't be allowed to force their religion on anybody else. That's obvious, right? But we're not going to be going and hunting them down unless we have proof that they killed people or they tortured people or they have anything to do with oppressing or the crimes that the Islamic Republic committed. Okay, but I believe, and I believe also Prince Reza Pahlavi believes this, that we're not going to go hunt people down for having shitty ideas. We might like ridicule them, we might make fun of them, we might create content against them, we might humiliate their shit ideas, but we are going to have freedom of religion. We're going to allow them to even talk about their shit ideas. Maybe we actually encourage that because that will give us more material to ridicule, but we're not going to be forcing our way. We're not going to let them force their way on us, but we're not going to be forcing our way on them. We're just going to allow them to stand for what they believe. And now, finally, they have to compete with our values. And it's actually very easy to defeat them because they're, as like, we don't need to actually hunt these people down physically because we want to show that in a fair battlefield of ideas, we will crush these people. Like, we don't need to use force to basically destroy what these people stand for. The only reason why these people's values survive is because we weren't able to fight them against them fairly. We want to now show, if we oppress them or try to silence them or physically remove them, then we will never be able to demonstrate how in a fair game we will win, right? We want them to be able to, now that we have a fair society where we could secure our safety and even their safety. That's now when we could see who's who has the upper hand if this battle of ideas were being fought fairly. So we don't want to miss that opportunity to demonstrate that. So we're going to have freedom of religion, we're going to have the freedom of ideas and freedom of expression, and we have to allow these people to express their bullshit as long as they don't do it as part of the government.